Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through the scientific mode. Now I'll show you something real quick. You'll notice here when you start a new game that you were allowed to select one of three options: sandbox, science, and career. Now this is all explained down here. So in career mode, you have to manage all aspects of your space program. Funding, reputation, and science are all effective. Or active, sorry, not and contracts are available in mission control. So this is all the stuff that comes into play during career mode. Science mode is just the funding and reputations. The fundings and reputations are disabled. It also says that contracts are not available. So there's that. This is basically this is what was originally the classic mode, the career mode, before they came out with the full version once they got the funding and reputations and stuff. And then of course sandbox is basically you can just do whatever you want. So I've already got a science mode started. I haven't played very long on it. There's nothing going on here. So we're going to go through this. And we're going to collect science and we're going to have some fun. Now, if I'm not mistaken yet. So what I currently have available is the basic rocketry stuff and the starter pack. All the starter stuff. You, in essence, really kind of can get this stuff really early on. It's not that hard. This stuff up here is kind of where things start to get a bit tricky. Now, most people will tell you not even to worry about getting the aero pack until later on, which is kind of true, but to be honest, I like to usually go with either the survivability or, well, basically just survivability, because the general rocketry and stability stuff doesn't really come in all that handy. At least it doesn't in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to build some rockets. And our goal is to get into space. Right? More specifically, we need to get into a substantial enough orbit. Do I have you? Okay. That we can collect some more science and thereby unlock some more stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to just slap together here a almost sort of basic rocket. Let me see. Tell you, this stuff, without having access to decouplers and things, it's really, because see, I have these, but I need the side ones that I can attach stuff to the side to. Otherwise, my rockets end up looking like this. Which, don't get me wrong, isn't bad, but... So let's see what we can do here. Ooh. Alright. Actually, that's what we can do. We'll do like that. That should give us plenty of thrust to get up there. Oh, but you know what? I'm not going to be able to use those center fuel tanks because I don't have any way of transferring the fuel. I'd have to transfer all the fuel manually, and believe me, that is a bit of a pain. Alright, so this is where the science portion comes into play. What I want to do is I want to run a real quick test here to see just how many of these tanks this thing can lift. So we're going to launch this, and we're going to revert flight a couple times, and each time we're going to add a fuel tank, because what that will allow me to do is gauge. So there you go. This thing can actually lift off fairly easily. So that's nice. So we'll revert the flight back to the vehicle assembly bay. Take that off. We'll add another tank onto the bottom of it. See how well this does. If this does well enough, what we're gonna probably end up doing is actually, you know, I can do that. I can do that. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do instead. Here's what we should have done in the first place. We're gonna attach that there. We're gonna come here and we're gonna slap that onto the bottom. And see if, yeah, it'll allow us to do this. What do you think? Probably on top, huh? Yeah. It'll make it look a bit more sleek and cool. So as you can see, sometimes it has a connection problem. It really doesn't like to connect certain things to certain spots. So that's alright, we'll put it down here. And we'll attach those onto the bottom. And then when that goes off, I need that to fire. So this should theoretically get us up there. Hopefully it won't crumble apart on us. See, and that's the problem you run into when you start talking about rocketry. Woo! Yeah, he would have been totally dead there. So that's not gonna work, unfortunately. So let's try that. Let's see if this works. I see, the basic problem was those engines were putting a lot of force onto that one section. And primarily all I really need this section right here to do is just get our speed up. That's all it's really there for, is just getting us moving. Because once this gets us moving, this next section, once it fires, is going to be enough, should be enough to get us into space if we have a high enough speed, which it looks like we will. I mean, we're almost at 100 meters a second. So there's 100 there. See if we can reach, we might be able to hit 150, but I doubt it. I mean, that fuel is dropping quick. Well, we're almost there. We might just hit 150, like, just as it runs out. And then we blast that section away, and this one should be enough to get us into orbit, hopefully. So there's our 10,000 meter mark. Shift over to about 90 degrees, give or take. We've got less than a minute's worth of fuel on this thing. Well, a little over a minute, actually. So I don't know, we might just be able to hit orbit. And I mean just. Because we need this to be above 60,000 meters. So we need to have our apoaps at 60 or above. Because that's where the gravitational pull of the planet is not sufficient enough to pull us back down to the ground. At least not sufficient enough to where we will kill ourselves. Right, so what do we need? we need 1,523 meters per second of delta V, and we have 2,000. So we should be able to pull this off. It's not going to be a pretty orbit or a very high orbit, but it will be a stable orbit. And that's what's important, because we'll have to do some EVA stuff and all that. So we'll time accelerate until we're about 20 seconds. And throttle up. Now I like to do this in map view only because it makes life a whole lot easier to see when your orbit is finally out. But this right here, this also really helps out a lot. So I can see here when this hits 60,000, and I can cut my engines then. But wow, man, talk about cutting it real close. There we go. It's not perfect, but we do still have some fuel left, and we are in something that can be vaguely called a stable orbit. So we'll get him out. Have him take his EVA report, and check that out. That's 5 science, 5.6 science. Instantly right there, bam. Okay, it's not going to let me transmit it. So you probably can't see that there. Basically, it just says I'm storing the EVA report rather than sending it off, since I don't have the antenna attached. That right there, that's the moon. That will be our next destination. So Kerbin has 2 moons actually. We have Moon and Minmus. And then if we zoom all the way out, we have these little asteroids right here, which some will be coming into view. We can capture some of these. There's a few more out here. And then we have the rest of the solar system. So we have Elu, Jewel, Dres, Duna, of course the inner system, Eve, and Moho. And all of these have their own moons. I know Jewel has quite a lot of moons. I think it's got like 6 or 7 moons, but it's a fairly big planet. So we will eventually be trying to go to all of those places, but right now we're going to just have to be satisfied with this. Now you see that my periaps is dropping, and that basically means that I wasn't high enough to sustain a stable orbit, which kind of sucks. But it shouldn't fall so quickly that I don't make at least one full rotation, because I want to try and land, if at all possible, right back here again is my target. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to zoom out here back into map view, and we're going to time accelerate. Now like this, we can only time accelerate so far, so we can only go up 4 bars on the time acceleration, because anything beyond that, and it won't let us go more than 4. So what's that? Yeah, more than 4 times time acceleration when we're this low. In order to get the really high numbers, so like 10, 1,000, 10,000, we need to be way out here. So I mean, we're going to need to be at least 100. I think it's like 120 is the minimum safe thing for this. So what we're going to do is I'll probably record this and just speed it up in post. Alright, so we gave it one last little burst there to try and see if we can't just make landfall over here, but it doesn't look like we will. So we're going to end up bringing this thing down somewhere, most likely somewhere in the ocean. So let's see what we got here. According to this, we're going to come down in the highlands, but that's going to change based on how long this thing takes to move around. So right now we're at 40,000 meters. See, there it says grasslands now, and pretty soon it'll switch to shores and then water. So in about 4 minutes we're going to smack the ground. What? We did get what we wanted, but we did get enough. So pretty soon this thing should smack into the atmosphere. Now we might be able to make landfall here. We should have enough speed. We'll time accelerate through this. Now I don't think we're going to get any flame effects, only because of how shallow we're coming through all this. No, there it goes. You can see the other section of our ship there, just plummeting away towards the ground, about 500 meters below us. So it looks like we're going to land in the desert, which is actually not bad, because I can collect some desert science. Ooh. I'll have to wait till almost the last minute to open that chute, though. Otherwise, we're going to land in the water. And I think I've already collected water science. Nope, we're going to hit the water. So the moment that switches over to water, I'll open the chute. Alright, well, it's not going to switch over to water, so we'll go ahead and open the chute. I might be able to swim to that. Swim to those deserts. And we have impact in 6, 5, 4. Oh, there we go. 10 seconds left to go. So we'll time accelerate through this. Because if you've seen one chute open and a pod fall into the water, you've seen 1,000 of them. They all look exactly the same. Although I don't know if they fixed it, which I believe they have. But I know in the earlier versions of the game, if you were time accelerating and you hit water, yeah, there was a good chance that ooh, hey, check that out. 12 science. So I guess I didn't get the water stuff yet. Now, I'm most likely not going to be able to get back into that pod. But that's okay. Yeah, that's going to be a bit too far to swim, don't you think? Yeah, we'll go ahead and try and get ourselves back into this pod here. And but yeah, in the earlier versions of the game, if you tried to do a water landing in time acceleration, it had some weird problems where it assumed that you were smacking into the ground at like 100 plus miles an hour, because of course you're doing 4 times the speed. So yeah, it would blow you up. But I think they fixed that now. So we got some science, we got jetpack, so we're gonna go here. So it's decision time. Do we get survivability, which gives us a smaller liquid engine, landing gears, and some more parachutes? Or do we get the general rocketry pack, which gives us even more rocketry, Separatrons, solid rocket boosters, and another liquid engine? To tell you the truth, I'm probably gonna go with stability, only because stability will give me this, the radial decoupler. This is very, very useful for building the rocket that I tried to build a minute ago. So we're gonna go with that. Now, I have enough left to get the survivability, but I could also really use this, because that's the slightly better decoupler than the one that I currently have. Not to mention this, the tri-coupler will allow me to put like 3 engines onto 1 fuel tank. So that'll really come in handy. But right now we have enough to at least get ourselves a staged rocket to get us into space. I'm also probably going to lean towards this one because it gives me this, which is the strut connector. That's going to be very useful and very handy for making sure things don't vibrate and shake out of control like they did before. So I'm going to need a little bit more science, because I need the general rocketry and the stability pack in order to unlock this. So we're going to go back and we're going to collect more science. And to do that, we need to get back into space again. This thing worked well enough, but now I actually have the capability of putting more rockets on it. So we'll take this off for the time being. We'll go here and we'll add another tank there. And the reason being is because I'm going to attach this mystery goo. That will allow me to collect science from space. Specific science from space, actually. I think what we're going to do is we are going to... Here it is. We're going to attach a couple of these onto the sides here. Just like before, only this time they will actually be able to break off. So add our fuel tanks. Like so. Now the only other issue I'm gonna have is this thing is going to try and rotate and spin on me, because these basic ones tend to do that. And that's because I don't have any struts to connect these with. But for the time being, as a practical test, this will work nicely. So we'll want that to fire right after these all go off. So because that last one did fairly good, so we can only assume this one can go well. So there you see as it tries to turn on you, which that was partially my fault for not having the SAS turned on when we launched. So it's going to kind of wobble back and forth now. So we'll make minute adjustments to it. See how it tries to roll. But that's alright, because in a minute those tanks are going to be empty. And my goal is, the last time we got up to 7,000, so this time I would at least like to get fairly close to my 10,000 mark, which we should be able to hit 10,000. Now I'm not going to turn this thing until after those engines run out. So we're at 10,000, we're at 300 meters a second, which is fantastic. So we should have more than enough speed now to get up into orbit. So we'll go ahead and start our orbital turn. Now this time I'm not pointing at 90 degrees, I'm pointing at 45, because this thing was twisting and rotating so badly that there was no real way I was going to be able to get to the 90 degree mark. So I just basically turned whichever direction I could actually turn. So this time we're actually going to wait until we're about 75. That way I know for sure I'm not going to fall back to the planet. I think on Kerbin the minimum safe distance is 60, but the last time we tried that it wasn't. So we'll get ourselves up to 75, cut the engines there, and that'll be more than enough to get us a stable orbit. Now you'll notice how it's all crooked this time, unlike the last one, which was kind of flat and looked a whole lot better. A whole lot better. But that's because, like I said, it was rotating around and we weren't able to get to our mark like we wanted to. So we're going to get rid of surface. Now, and this is where the rocketry stuff comes in. I need 1,522.3 meters per second of delta V in order to get this orbit right here. I've got 3,128 meters per second. So I should easily be able to make this mark. So we'll give this, you want to try and burn close to half, is what most people tell you. I can tell you for a fact you just don't want to burn once you reach, so where it says right here, time to node, which is this little mark that I've placed it right there. You don't want to burn when that says 0. You're going to overshoot and you're probably not going to make it. So we'll burn about there. And the closer you can get to that, the more accurate this number, the number of this node, so the periaps and apoaps, are going to be. But for the most part, just use it as a reference. That's what I do. It's just a reference so that I know where I need to burn in which direction, and then we can make fine-tunes and adjustments from there. So as you can see, it's slowly coming out now. And there we go. So obviously overshot, like, hugely, because now I'm at 85,000 meters and 75,000 meters when I wanted to be at 75 and like 70. So, but like I said, all that was just a gauge to tell me where I needed to shoot, aim, and which how soon I needed to burn. That's all that was really for. So now we're going to go back here and we're going to examine our mystery goo. That's 10 science, which isn't bad, but, you know, not really worth this entire trip just for that. Kind of disappointing. Just a bit, you know. So, rather than wasting all of my time and effort on a full rotation and trying to get this thing back and all that. I'm just going to go ahead, point this thing backwards, fire up this engine, and just go ahead and kill everything. Kill all of our speed. Yeah, those camera shifts, those are because of the planet's poles. Whenever you roll over, whenever you fly over one of the poles, the camera tries its best to kind of reposition itself. So we're just going to burn off the rest of that fuel because it's not coming back with us anyway. So we're in essence going to be falling almost straight downward if I've done this properly, which I probably didn't, but we'll see. Although that said, now yeah, our orbital speed is like going to be really, really low, so we really shouldn't get any flame effects at this speed. So we'll hit the time acceleration, and as you see, the moment we got to the 70,000 meter mark, our time acceleration just stopped. Perfect timing. So we're going to accelerate through this. And we'll see what happens when we hit about 30,000 meters. So, although we didn't get the kind of science we wanted, that should be enough. Oh yeah, look at those beautiful flame effects. We should be able to collect just enough science to get our general rocketry, because we only needed another 3 for that, and that'll put us in good stead for our next section. Now I can examine that mystery goo container on the ground and get some science from that as well, which I'll probably end up doing, but I'll do that in the next video. So there's our chute. We're going to land it. We're going to collect some samples and an EVA report from the grasslands here. Now all these biomes, they do give science, even though we're still on the same planet. So it's kind of a cheap, easy way of getting free science, is launching a general rocket up, trying your best to land in an area and collect the science from it. And you can get quite a bit of easy science by doing that. So we'll come out here. We'll take a surface sample. That's another 9 science. Take an EVA report. Another 2.4. Now I could plant a flag, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to save that for when we actually get someplace viable, like the moon or something like that. So back into the pod we go and recover. So now we've got 38 science. We've got jet back yet again. We'll go here. We're going to go ahead and pick up the general rocketry, so that way we can now get our hands on general construction, which will give us the struts we need to tie everything together to keep everything from going haywire. And it'll also give us advanced rocketry, and at some point we're going to have to start looking into flight controls and survivability, but who cares if they live, right? So that's it for now. We're going to come back later and build more rockets. And to that, I say sayonara.